Hello everybody, my name is Chase Pickle, and my speech will be about the moon landing. The International Space Station travels at around 17,500 miles per hour around our planet. In one day, it travels about the distance it would take to go to the moon and back. On July 16th, 1969, hundreds of millions of people from every corner of the world tuned into the first manned mission to the moon, Apollo 11. Even if you aren't a science person or enjoy space, who hasn't heard the phrase, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," or seen the footage of them planting our flag into the extraterrestrial soil? For as long as I can remember, space and our endless endeavor to explore the cosmos has been my number one subject of interest. Before switching, I was majoring in astrophysics, but I found that the field in particular is surprisingly oversaturated, so jobs are few and far between. I also thoroughly enjoy history and learning about what really happened, as well as the small details in certain events in history I am interested in. Based on the myriad of evidence, my personal knowledge of physics, as well as my passion for the truth, I can without a doubt say that we did, in fact, land men on the moon that day. I will tackle and debunk the common questions or doubts of the mission. One of the biggest questions people have is why the photos of the mission have no stars. Another thing people wonder about is why the US flag was moving if there is no wind on the moon. Lastly, people ask, if we went to the moon, why haven't we gone back? I know tackling these questions may seem overwhelming, but hopefully I can properly present as well as disprove these questions one by one. As you can see, there are no stars in this photo. Why is that? Well, it was actually daytime when these photos were taken, so the light from the sun was blocking the light from other stars. The best way I can describe this phenomenon is light pollution, as I call it. Basically, this means that if there are sources of light, they can pollute or occupy that space and create a sort of fog to not allow other light to pass through, especially stars, which are light years away. For those of you who may not know what a light year is, it is a measurement in years of the distance traveled by light. For reference, light also travels at a speed of 299,792,458 meters per second. In short, the reason we cannot see any stars is because sunlight is blocking all the light from the other stars above them. To support all my arguments today, the article by the Royal Museums of Greenwich discusses and debunks the same questions which I am answering. Now that we have a better understanding of space wonkiness, this next one is even more baffling. Why is the flag moving on a body of rock with no atmosphere and no wind? NASA thought about this as well, and the answer isn't as fanciful as the last. NASA designed a flag with a horizontal pole to make the flag move as if there was wind. As simple as that. They simply wanted to move it, so they designed the flag in a way that could overcome the lack of atmosphere. What I find interesting about this moment is that the US signed a treaty with the other nations around the globe that prohibited the claiming of the moon, so placing the flag there was basically a symbolic gesture for humanity. Even though the legal status of the moon remained unchanged, there was still a lot of international controversy of us planting the flag there in the first place. All of this and so much more was written by Anne Platoff in a contractor report about the flag's story. You can find this amazing piece of history on NASA's website or on the link at the end of this slide. Now, a lot of people know this, but there were 9 Apollo missions, with a total of 24 astronauts who had gone off to the moon, and 12 of them who actually set foot on the moon. A common doubt is, if we went there, why didn't we go back? As I mentioned earlier, we did in fact go back, a lot, One of the most famous expeditions was Apollo 13. It isn't famous for a new milestone for humanity, but our perseverance and ability to help those in need, even if they are hundreds of thousands of miles away. The biggest reason we didn't go back was we just didn't have a reason to go back. We did what was set out to do, and at that time, as much as the Apollo missions were for humanity, it was to win the space race, to beat communism, as odd as that is. If you won a 100-meter dash, would you just keep doing the race over and over again with no new medal, with nothing to gain, absolutely no point, and all to lose? As I mentioned before, the article written by the Royal Museums of Greenwich explains effectively why we did not go back. Now, there are plenty more doubts and conspiracy theories I have not discussed, but I hope that I was at least able to provide an informative breakdown of a few of the most popular ones. Based on my personal research, as well as the documentation from thousands of other people far more qualified than me, we landed on the moon that day. First, we discussed the lack of stars in many of the photos. After that, I talked about the moving flag. And lastly, I spoke about the lack of missions after Apollo 11, after the Apollo missions. For all of those, I hope I gave concise but informative answers to each and every one of them. I first mentioned the space station at the beginning of this speech because right now on TikTok, there are streams of astronauts on the International Space Station doing repairs, fixing things, communicating with NASA. And all of that proves that we did that. We are there. And I want to leave us with this quote. What really strikes me about these images is that those footprints, those track of the lunar vehicles, they're going to maintain their integrity for millions of years, no matter what we do to ourselves as a civilization. We've already left our mark on the cosmos. Thank you.